Hello, and welcome to A Book a Day. Today, I'm introducing a book that has a fiery title, Burn the Boats. The title alone sparks a sense of motivation and determination. You've probably heard the phrase, burn your boats, which is similar to the Chinese idiom, po fu tendo, breaking the cauldrons and sinking the boats. This phrase originates from the famous Battle of Julu, led by the great general Xiang Yu of the Western Chu. The story goes that after crossing the river, Xiang Yu ordered his soldiers to destroy all the boats and cooking equipment, leaving only 3 days' worth of rations. By eliminating any way of retreat, the soldiers were forced to fight with everything they had, leading them to a decisive victory. The title of Burn the Boats is inspired by this story. Although the author of this book is an American entrepreneur, when he came across this ancient story from the East, it deeply resonated with him. He felt it vividly captured the secret behind his own success in life, which was to never leave a way out and give every endeavor absolute best effort. Hence, he named his book, Burn the Boats. Who is this American entrepreneur? His name is Matt Higgins, and while you may not be very familiar with him, he's quite a well-known investor in the United States and has even founded a publicly traded company. Though his fame doesn't compare to that of Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, what makes him particularly noteworthy is his dramatic rise from adversity. Higgins grew up in a poor neighborhood in New York City, in a home infested with cockroaches. He was raised by a single mother, cleaned houses to support him and his 3 brothers. To make matters worse, he dropped out of high school at the age of 16. Despite such a disadvantaged start, without an education or family background, no one could have predicted that in less than 30 years after dropping out, he would climb to the top. At the age of 26, he became the youngest press secretary in the history of New York City. Later, he became the vice president of an NFL team, founded his own publicly traded company, and then became a well-known investor on a popular business television show. Higgins is the epitome of someone who started with a terrible hand, still managed to play it spectacularly. He's a person who continually cut off his escape routes, or as he puts it, burned his boats, and faced new challenges head-on. I believe learning from his life can offer strength and practical growth strategies to those of us who seek lifelong improvement, especially those who feel stuck, unsure of how to break through, or a little anxious about the future. Although this book is based on his personal experiences and may not apply to everyone, you might even think he's a bit extreme, his energy is incredibly infectious. His strategies for success may just light a spark in you. So, what are the life lessons of this underdog and risk-taker? Let's dive into the book. Both the main title and the chapter titles of this book are intriguing. For this review, I've chosen to follow the chapter structure, dividing it into 3 parts. First part is called Step into the Water, where we'll discuss why the author believes that burning your boats is the key to success. The second part is titled Never Look Back, where we'll talk about how to cope with anxiety when launching a new venture. The third part is called Build More Boats, where we'll explore how to continue growing after achieving success and how to replicate that success in other areas. Next, let's dive into the first part of the content. What does it mean to burn your boats? Actually, it has 2 layers of meaning. First, let's discuss the first layer, which is about abandoning your plan B, or backup plan. The author claims this is his biggest secret to success. He believes that having too many plans can actually hinder success. To achieve significant accomplishments, one must not leave any escape route. This perspective is quite intriguing. We often say, don't put all your eggs in one basket, or that it's wise to have a backup plan and to give oneself a safety net. However, in the author's view, while diversification may be necessary in managing investments, in life, one needs the courage to commit fully. This view is closely related to the author's life experience. As mentioned earlier, the author dropped out of school at 16. Although his academic performance wasn't bad at the time, his ambition to stand out meant that his grades would only allow him to attend a mediocre university. The author thought it was better to forgo a high school diploma, attend night school, earn a professional diploma early, and enter the workforce sooner. His decision to drop out was met with ridicule from classmates and teachers. Many advised him to get his high school diploma first and then pursue his dreams. However, the author wanted to cut off his escape route and force himself to forge ahead. Eventually, he earned his diploma through night school and started his career as a contractor, eventually making a name for himself. After joining the football team, he worked his way up to an executive position. However, he realized he was only managing routine tasks and had limited prospects for advancement. So, he made a decisive move, resigning from his executive role to start his own business. Some suggested he could manage and run a side business simultaneously, but he once again chose to cut off his fallback options. Later, he participated in a commercial program, received much acclaim, and decided he could create his own program. So he left the commercial program to start his own show. Sounds like a dream-like life. It seems as if, despite a challenging start, his journey was like having a cheat code. In the author's view, he is no more intelligent or resourceful than others. His key to success is his willingness to burn his boats and abandon Plan B. There's also experimental research supporting this point. Researchers had participants make backup plans for their goals and then track them. They found that the group with backup plans performed worse than those without backup plans, and their commitment to their original goals diminished. Researchers believe that having a backup plan is like taking only half a step. Psychologically, people are less committed to succeeding and more exploratory. This attitude can hinder progress. The famous actor Arnold Schwarzenegger once gave a highly acclaimed speech titled, "I hate backup plans." He said that backup plans become a dark safety net. Knowing that there is a safety net if you fail can negatively affect your performance. This also reminds me of an interview with an investor I once saw. When asked about the difference between successful and unsuccessful entrepreneurs, I expected the investor to talk about talent or resources. Instead, the investor said it was desire. The biggest difference is how badly the person wants to succeed. The investor explained that modern people, with so much access to information, have become very smart and tend to find multiple routes for themselves, which results in their inability to fully commit to any one path. In other words, their desire to achieve their goals gets diluted. Truly successful people pour all their energy, time, and effort into one thing. The investor concluded by suggesting that if you are someone who has aspirations for your life and wants to make a significant effort, you should immerse yourself in your information bubble and avoid evidence contrary to your goals. For example, if you aim for a promotion to management, don't read advice from seasoned professionals who say it's a thankless job. If you want to start a business, focus on how to succeed in entrepreneurship, rather than listening to pessimistic analyses about the low chances of success. From the author's story, we can see the kind of commitment and drive described by the investor. When he had nothing, he was willing to cut off his escape routes. When he had everything, he still dared to cut off his fallback option. Now let's discuss the second layer of burn your boats. The author says you should be willing to abandon things that seem safe but will not help you achieve your life goals. The author argues that sometimes what seems like a safe path is actually risky, while what seems risky may be safer. The path we think is safe might be akin to boiling a frog in lukewarm water. If we critically assess our distance from our goals, we might realize that this path is the slowest. For instance, after dropping out of school, the author worked hard to enter night school at a law college and eventually interned at a law firm. To others, he had already made a significant life leap. However, after some time in the field, he found the competition in law firms to be fierce. To reach his ideal position, he would need to seize every promotion opportunity, and even then, it would take 8 to 9 years. The path seemed safe, but was actually difficult. So, the author decisively switched careers, abandoning his years of effort in the legal field. The author says that people generally believe in progressing step by step in their careers, waiting for incremental promotions within a company. They assume success follows a set sequence. You must first become a manager before you can become a director, and you must have CEO experience before you can start your own business. However, the author views this as a misconception and not how the world truly operates. The real way the world works is that success often involves a leap to a larger development space, followed by incremental efforts within it. This leap is crucial. If you have higher aspirations, examine whether your current path is slow. If so, consider making a big leap. Some may say, I have no experience in another industry. How can I ensure I will be hired and perform well? In the author's view, there is never a perfectly prepared moment in life. We may dream of a perfect moment when our experience is sufficient and our financial situation is secure before trying something new. But in reality, when you have enough experience, you might be older, and when you have financial security, you may have more responsibilities. Therefore, according to the author, there is no perfect moment, only the present to act. Moreover, as long as your core skills align with the new direction, even if you only have a vague idea about the field, you can still boldly give it a try. As the title of this section suggests, dive in the water. Once you throw yourself into the water, you will be pressured to tap into your potential. From this, we see that the author is an adventurous and decisive person. He prefers to corner himself first and then forcefully find solutions. Considering the context of the time, the author started his business around 2010, right after the financial crisis in the US, when the overall economic environment was not good. Thus, his approach may not be suitable for everyone. However, we can at least see a way of living, a person's courage, and drive towards the future. It makes us reflect on our current lives. Amidst an information-rich environment, where we are used to weighing pros and cons and seeking safety, do we have too many plan Bs? In our decision-making, should we also try burning our boats? Alright, let's continue. Suppose we venture into a new field. We might face a problem, feeling very nervous and anxious. What should we do in this situation? Many books teach us how to calm anxiety, but the author proposes an interesting idea. He says not to deny or fight against anxiety, but to learn to use it. What does this mean? The author suggests that if you ask yourself whether you are feeling comfortable, and the answer is yes, then there's a problem with your life. Feeling comfortable means you haven't maximized your potential, and your talents are being wasted. The author believes that discomfort is the key element in driving personal growth. This is contrary to the popular notions of relaxation and control. Research has shown that participants who engaged in a series of uncomfortable activities, such as dealing with people they disagree with or trying sports they are not good at, rated their personal growth the highest. In other words, if you want to grow, you need to endure discomfort. Thus, the author argues that feeling anxious is a good sign. It means you are breaking out of your comfort zone. When the author worked with the football team, he noticed that renowned coaches often used extreme pressure to push players out of their comfort zones. For example, they would make players practice ballet and blast heavy metal music, create a chaotic environment where players couldn't hear each other. The author has his own experiences as well. After dropping out of high school, he worked as an intern in a congressional office. At that time, he felt very anxious about his low education level and lack of knowledge, and was particularly afraid of being seen as worthless. This anxiety drove him to add value to himself as much as possible. For instance, when asked to merge emails and create hundreds of personalized letters, even though he had never used a computer before, he volunteered for the task. He spent several nights in the office learning how to use the computer and completed the task by the deadline, even falling asleep in the office corner. His actions left a strong impression on his superiors. After the project ended, all the other interns were dismissed except for him. By the age of 26, the author became the youngest press secretary in New York City. There are many such examples in the book. After becoming an investor, the author once saw an opportunity to become a lecturer at Harvard University. He was very eager to get the position, but felt very unconfident. However, he didn't give up. Instead, he used his anxiety to force himself to prepare thoroughly. He researched the needs of Harvard Business School students, set up his home as a mock classroom, bought a blackboard, and even worked on his handwriting with calligraphy practice book. To improve his posture, he bought a posture corrector, and even lost 50 pounds to improve his appearance for the lecture. He spent a whole year preparing for this lecture. As expected, his performance was excellent. After the lecture, a student handed him a note saying it was the most impressive class they had ever attended at Harvard Business School. The author was so excited that he framed the note. The author says that from a young age he had always struggled with anxiety due to his various shortcomings. But looking back now, this anxiety provided him with advantages, making him prepare more thoroughly, focus on details, and ultimately exceed expectations. However, the author also warns that anxiety should not be excessive. 2 Harvard psychologists conducted a study and found that anxiety and growth follow a bell curve. In other words, moderate anxiety can help us perform at our best, but once it exceeds a certain threshold, it can hinder our actions. Therefore, the author advises that while we should use anxiety to drive us, we must also manage it to prevent it from impeding our action. Next, let's talk about how to handle excessive anxiety. The author gives 3 practical suggestions. The first suggestion is to seek theoretical support for your perspective. Scientific theories often provide reassurance. The author once experienced insomnia for 48 hours due to jet lag and worried about the impact on his intelligence and health. He searched online and found a study that showed as long as the insomnia did not exceed 72 hours and was infrequent, it had minimal impact on mental and physical performance. This theory reassured him, and he was able to fall asleep. The author found that scientific theories not only guide actions, but also provide psychological comfort. The second suggestion is to reframe your experiences at any time. Experiences are one thing, but how you perceive them is another. After achieving increasing success, the author began to hide his past struggles and appeared in custom suits, glowing in public. However, the more he hid his past, the more vulnerable he felt. He realized that to be truly strong, he needed to fully accept his past and view it as a gift. To change his perspective, he forced himself to publicly talk about his past experiences, not with shame, but with pride. After his speech, he saw many people in the audience wiping away tears. He realized that when you view your experiences differently, others won't mock you but will empathize deeply with you. For instance, if there's something you must do, you can reframe your belief to say, "This is what I want to do." Instead of feeling compelled, you choose to work because you want to. In Professor Juan Weigong's Elite Daily Lessons Season 6, he also emphasizes the importance of cognitive restructuring. I'd like to quote one of his enlightening statements. People perceive the world through stories rather than objective truth. Everyone lives in the story they tell themselves, so reframing is about telling a better story. Good doesn't mean true. Useful is what matters. Finally, the third suggestion is to carefully choose your circle of friends. In other words, avoid associating with naysayers. The author says that new ventures are very fragile at the beginning, and we often have self-doubt. At this time, we need to nurture our dreams and create a positive environment to support our initial plans. There's an interesting study where researchers had a player throw a ball with his eyes closed while the audience booed him, regardless of whether he succeeded or not. The player lost his usual skill and missed all 10 shots. When the audience cheered, he managed to make 4 out of 10 shots. The author says that confidence is crucial for someone exploring a new venture and feeling anxious. Once you have control over your venture, you have plenty of time to be with critics and test your limits. But in the critical early stages, you should stay with supporters. Alright, we previously discussed how to manage and leverage anxiety during the initial phase of starting a new venture. Now let's talk about how to maintain and replicate the advantages you've established, which is the theme of the third section, how to build more ships. First, the author gives us a dose of encouragement. He says that even though the things he shares might seem risky, believe that once you've taken the risk, task becomes simpler. This is a classic concept in habit formation. Once you get used to doing something, it becomes easier. For example, the author prepared for his first class at Harvard Business School for a year, but for the second class, he hardly needed any preparation. He says that after you've worked out the logic, consolidating and replicating the results will be much easier than creating them from scratch. We need to have confidence in this. Furthermore, the author advises that once you're in an advantageous position, You should fully recognize and utilize every advantage that position provides. Having been a manager for many years, interacting with many employees and athletes, he discovered that most people treat their work as just a job and don't realize that their work position can empower their future. Only a few people who recognize this end up being more successful. For instance, when the author was working in a football team, he noticed that although all the players knew they needed to prepare for their post-retirement careers, few took real action. Only one player, after learning about his investment experience, called him to seek advice on how to invest to ensure financial stability after retirement. Eventually, this player, as he became more famous, used his fame to secure a meeting with Warren Buffett. This person understood that his work position and fame had additional uses. Consolidating your achievements also involves recognizing and utilizing talent. You need to start thinking about who can help nourish your ideas and who can help grow your business. The author says that fully unleashing others' potential will give you greater freedom. At the end of today's discussion, let's share the author's views on identifying and utilizing people. Based on his experience, he has summarized 4 types of people worth relying on and 4 types to avoid. You can also self-diagnose which category you and those around you fall into. First, the 4 types worth relying on. 1. Visionaries. These are people who can see the future and help guide you in the right direction. They are the most scarce. 2. Catalysts. If visionaries are the screenwriters of a movie, catalysts are the producers. They help bring your vision to life with strong organizational and operational skills and are very good at interacting with people. 3. Executors. Executors also help realize the vision, differ from catalysts in that they focus on excelling in their specific areas. In other words, executors are people who can ignore the forest for the trees. They are often very responsible and reliable. 4. Communicators. This type focuses on external communication and public relations. They are excellent at storytelling, able to convey your talents and your company's achievements in a compelling manner. The author says that to build more ships and expand your business, you need to rely on these 4 types of people. If these people are more capable than you should be happy and not hinder them. Mediocre people hire incompetents to make themselves look like geniuses, but if a mediocre person hires a genius, they become a genius. At the same time, the author also warns about 4 types of people who can obstruct your efforts to build more ships. 1. Suppressors. Similar to the naysayers we discussed earlier, they might offer some valuable advice but never give you recognition. According to the author, you should stay away from such people. 2. Predators. They aim to exploit your strengths for their own benefit without creating value for you. They are very skilled in using manipulative tactics to turn people around, ultimately benefiting only themselves. The next 2 types are like the white rabbits in organizations, seemingly harmless but actually harmful. Number 3. Victims. These people are always complaining and negatively impact organizational morale. The author, who had cancer at 32, noticed that among his fellow patients, there were those who constantly lamented their misfortune and those who saw their survival as a stroke of luck. He realized that mindset shapes how we perceive the world, and that a victim mentality can lead individuals and organizations into a deep abyss. 4. Martyrs. These individuals work extremely hard and take on as much responsibility as possible, often beyond their capacity. This might be due to their reluctance to refuse others or a desire to show off. Poor leaders might reward martyrs, but in reality they disrupt the fairness of the organization and may not excel at any task due to their scattered focus. So, these are the types of people to rely on and avoid if you want to build more ships and expand your career. That concludes our summary of the book. This book shares the life experiences of an adventurer who rose from humble beginnings. Its core message is captured by its title, Burn the Ships, meaning that when we aim to make a leap, we should have the courage to abandon Plan B and those seemingly safe routes distance us from our goals. We also discussed how to handle and use anxiety effectively when starting a new venture, and how to leverage existing advantages while building on the strengths of others. The book reminds me of the saying, "The brave enjoy the world first." I feel that in today's world, where specialization and life planning are increasingly refined, we become more cautious and accustomed to living within frameworks. At such a point, we need a book like this and a person like the author to push us when we feel our lives are going well but lack drive, or when we want to escape the status quo but are hesitant and anxious. I believe every brave soul deserves a remarkable life.